Have you ever asked AI to write your real estate business plan? You probably got back 10 pages that looked impressive and were completely unusable. That is not an AI problem. That is a prompting problem. And today, I am proving it with real numbers on the screen. One prompt, one set of constraints, 3 different engines, and the same realtor scenario. I'm going to be putting them into ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude. I'm also going to be grading all 3 on camera, and one of them is going to be crowned the winner. Let's go. So I've been coaching real estate agents for 5 years now, and I build AI infrastructure every day. So I'm inside these engines every hour of my working day. I'm not selling you a $30 a month wrapper app that pipes a lazy prompt into one of these 3 models and then charges you a markup fee for it. I ran this test the same way you would run it, in a browser, with actual constraints of a new real estate agent who has no budget, no assistant, and 5 real hours to prospect. And the full report is coming at the end. Letter grades for all 3, and the winner, trust me, it genuinely surprised me. But first, 30 seconds on the mistake that guarantees you get garbage from any of them. Here's the prompt that most agents write. Watch. Cold call, door knock, post on every social every day, host open houses, build your brand. Every line is technically true. Not one line survives contact with an actual Tuesday morning because I never told it a single thing about my life. And to be fair to Gemini, that was my fault, not the engine's. Watch what the same model does in about 4 minutes when the prompt actually does the job. Generic prompt gives you generic activities. A constrained prompt gives you a decision framework. So here is the prompt I actually used on all 3 engines. It does one thing differently. It refuses to let the model write anything until the model interviews me first. 5 questions about my numbers, my calendar, my lead sources, my hard boundaries, and the thing that is actually jamming me up. Same prompt, different answers. 3 engines. Let's go. All right, ChatGPT first. Same prompts, no edits. First thing I want you to notice, it does not write the plan. It stops and says it will not generate anything until I answer 5 questions. That is the whole mechanic. Its questions are sharp too. It split my target GCI into 3 separate numbers: goal, average sale price, and average check. Which is the difference between an engine doing the math and an engine guessing? Question 5 asks, what is actually causing my decision paralysis? No wrapper app is asking you that. Those are my answers, and they are real constraints of a brand new agent. Now watch what it does with them. It locks the math first. 200,000 divided by a $10,000 check is 20 transactions in 12 months, 5 per quarter and 65 focused lead generation hours in a 90-day window. Then it does something none of the marketing around these tools prepares you for. It says out loud that closings will lag behind the activity. So the scorecard is going to measure leading indicators instead of judging me on closed GCI in 90 days. That is a coach's distinction. Most agents quit a good plan at day 60 because nobody told them that. 1 lever, 5 genuine real estate conversations every workday. Personal outreach to people who already know me. And here is where ChatGPT separates itself. It gives me the actual words. It hands me a brand new agent, the reconnect line, the follow-up line, and the referral ask. My biggest stated fear was not knowing what to say every morning, and this is the only engine that answered that question literally. The week has a shape. Monday, reconnect. Tuesday, follow-up. Wednesday, expand the sphere through introductions. Thursday, 1 local video. Friday, conversation and cleanup. And it respects the hour. 10 minutes to pick up names, 40 minutes to reach out, 10 minutes to log it. That is a real 60-minute block, not a wish. The Thursday line is the one I would put on a wall. Posting the video is not the lead generation activity. Sending it directly and starting a conversation is. 11 things it explicitly tells me to ignore. No paid ads, purchasing list, door knocking, no posting across 5 platforms. Forget logo design, no changing your CRM or your scripts midstream. It even bans consuming training during the protected hour, which is the most common way agents disguise avoidance as productivity. 3 metrics, and here's my one real problem with this plan. The headline number is 5 genuine conversations a day, and it defines a conversation as one where the other person actually responds. That is a metric I don't fully control. I control whether I reach out. I do not control whether my cousin texts me back. When your primary daily scoreboard depends on other people's behavior, a bad week feels like a personal failure, when it was just a slow week. Hold that thought because a different engine solves it. All right, the landing is strong though. Every weekday morning, one question: who are the 5 people I will speak to today? That single line does more for decision paralysis than any dashboard. Now, the honest ding. I asked for 1 page. That is not 1 page. That is closer to 3. And the instruction was explicit. Rich, useful, well-organized, and still a violation of a constraint I stated twice. Credit where credit is due on the other side. The final plan lands in its own writing block, so I can edit it directly instead of copying a wall of chat text into a doc. That matters more than it sounds when you actually use these things daily. ChatGPT gives you more things to do. A real strategy tells you what to ignore. This one mostly told me what to ignore and then ignored the 1-page rule itself. All right, same prompt, second engine, and the first thing you notice is speed. It complies with interview protocol and its question labels are the sharpest of the 3. Target math, lead gen, capacity, current assets, and budget. Calendar hard stop, primary bottleneck. Watch question 1 specifically. It does not ask me to repeat my GCI goal because I already gave it. It asks only for what it is missing. Small thing. And it tells you the model is actually reading, not pattern matching. Same math, 20 deals, roughly 1.6 a month. It adds a pipeline target of 3 to 4 active conversations at a time, which I did not ask for and I did not need, but it is not wrong. Now stop here because this is the most important 30 seconds of the whole test. Gemini names the right lever, sphere of influence outreach, consultant instead of salesperson. Then it writes the script to your home's value. I told this engine that my single biggest problem is fear of sounding inexperienced and desperate. And it handed me a brand new agent paragraph containing the phrases hyperlocal neighborhood trends, market intelligence, and neighborhood equity, ending in a request for permission to send occasional notes. That's not a conversation. That is asking your aunt to opt into a newsletter. Nobody talks like that. And a new agent who reads that out loud will sound exactly like the thing they're afraid of sounding like. It solved the strategy, then wrote language that reactivates the fear it was told about. Structurally, though, this is the cleanest week of the 3, and it does one thing better than either competitor. It gives me an actual clock. 8:30 to 9:30, Monday through Friday, strictly protected. ChatGPT and Claude both said morning. Gemini put it on the calendar. For an agent with decision paralysis, a specific time beats general intention every single time. The subtraction list is punchy and it lands one direct hit. No imposter syndrome tweaking. Stop taking extra certifications and redesigning your branding during your lead generation block. That is the most honest line in the document. Only engine that built an actual table, and it separates outreach touches from real conversations from consultations, which is genuinely well designed. My issue is the volume. 5 touches a day inside a full protected hour is a low bar. That is 12 minutes per text message. Remember that number, because the 3 engines disagree wildly on it and the gap is enormous. And it closes by asking me which step feels hardest to execute tomorrow morning. That's a coaching move. It keeps the conversation open instead of dropping a document and walking away. No writing block in this one, so the plan lives in a chat window and I am copying it out by hand. Minor until you do it about 40 times a month. Gemini wins on operational speed and structural clarity, but raw data is not the same as personal strategy. Third engine, same prompt. The questions come back shortest of all the 3, and look at how question 4 is worded. It asks for the personal commitment the plan has to build around, not compete with. That is a reframe hiding inside the question. It's telling me before I answer that my family time is a designed constraint, not an obstacle to work around. All right, it locks the same math, then it does the same thing that decided this entire test for me. Before the plan, it questions its own plan. It says the whole thing depends on 40 to 48 touches a week being enough to surface 20 transactions. And I should sanity check that against the actual size of my sphere in a few weeks. And then the line that matters. If the list is thin, my constraint is not my calendar. It is my list. And that is a different problem to solve before adding tactics. Neither other engine questioned its own assumption. That is what a coach does about 10 minutes into a real conversation. Same lever, sphere outreach, but watch how it handles my fear. It does not write me a script to hide behind. It says, I cannot sound desperate or inexperienced to someone who already knows me. That's not a workaround for the fear. That dissolves it. And it explicitly demotes my video content to a distant second lever so it never competes with the outreach hour. All right, 4 days of outreach, 10 to 12 personal touches a day, 1 day batching video on Friday. Now compare the volume. Gemini said 5 touches a day. Claude says 10 to 12, 4 days a week. Over 90 days, that's the difference between roughly 300 touches and well over 500. Same goal, same hours, same agent. One engine is asking for nearly double the activity. That gap is the entire reason you cannot outsource judgment to a chatbot without reading it critically. All right, shorter subtraction list, and it holds with a rule instead of a list item. If it is not a personal touch to someone who already knows you, it does not happen inside your 5 hours. That is a filter I can apply to anything, including things nobody thought to put on a list. And here's the fix to the problem I flagged in ChatGPT's plan. The primary metric is touches made, not conversations received. Did you make contact, not did they answer? That is entirely inside my control, which is the only kind of daily metric a brand new agent should be graded on. It closes by saying a missed day is information, not a failure. Adjust tomorrow's number up, behavioral, not motivational. One real ding, and it is the same gap in reverse from ChatGPT. Claude told me not to use a canned script and then gave me no language at all. My stated problem was that I do not know what to say every morning. It told me who to call and how to think about the call, and it never gave me an opening line. ChatGPT handed me the words. That is the genuine miss on this exact friction point I named. Claude does not just list the task, it thinks through the trade-offs of your calendar, including the trade-offs in its own plan. 3 engines, 1 prompt, identical answers. I graded each one on 3 things: the quality of the questions it asked me, how well it interpreted both the prompt and my answers, and the final plan itself. Extra credit went to any engine that put the finished plan in its own writing block instead of burying it in a chat. ChatGPT A-, best grasp of the difference between the 90-day operating window and the 12-month revenue goal, the only engine that gave me actual words to say, and the only engine that broke a stated rule by handing me 3 pages when I asked for 1. Gemini, strong B, sharpest questions, cleanest layout, the only one that put a real-time block on my calendar, and the only one that wrote a script that would make a nervous agent sound worse instead of better. Speed and structure, thin on judgment. Claude, A, best questions, best read of my answers, and the only engine that stress tested its own plan before handing it to me. It loses a half step for skipping the language a brand new agent actually needs. So the winner is Claude, and it won on one thing. It was the only engine that behaved like it had something at stake in whether the plan actually worked. Now, some of you watched me fire ChatGPT about a week ago, and I just scored it an A-. I am not going to pretend that did not happen. It performed. It also blew through an explicit 1-page constraint, and my reason for leaving it was never that it was stupid. It is that its writing sounds like a press release, and I do not want my brand voice coming out of it. On a single strategy task with a great prompt, it is strong. That is the honest result. And if I hid it from you, this whole video would be worth nothing. But here's the real reveal underneath the reveal, and it is the actual takeaway. The trophy answers which engine won one test. It does not answer what you should run your business on, because that answer is 2 engines, not 1. Claude for strategy, judgment, and anything a client will read in your voice. Gemini for speed, live market data, and the fact that it lives inside your calendar and the inbox you already open every morning. Everything else gets canceled. And the biggest finding is not on the report card at all. Every one of these 3 engines produced something usable, and the lazy prompt at the top of the video produced garbage on the exact same model that later scored a B. The spread between the best output and the worst output today had almost nothing to do with the logo on the tab. It was the prompt. Here is what I run now, and you can start it Monday morning, strategy session in Claude with this prompt. Output goes on 1 page. Through the week, execution in Gemini, market research, drafting, scheduling, all of it inside Google. Friday, 15 minutes back in Claude to collaborate the page against what actually happened. Plan in one engine, operate in the other. Calibrate weekly. That is the entire stack. So stop treating AI like an authority that gives you orders. Start treating it like an engine that asks you better questions. The exact prompt that I used on all 3 engines, plus the 1-page business plan calibration sheet I used to grade them, are both sitting in the AI Prompting 201 course in our free school community, RealCoach Academy. Link is right below this video. Join free. Open AI Prompting 201. Grab both and run your own numbers through it. Then come tell me in the community which engine won your test, because I would not bet money it is not the one you are using right now. See you on the inside.